Hello there. Dominic Cummings says he wants to fill number 10 with misfits and weirdos. While some on the left would say he's already succeeded, the truth is that we had an escape, because a Corbyn victory would have meant instant nutters in number 10. Firstly, as ever, please kick that YouTube algorithm up the rump end by giving this video a big fat like. And just to get into the swing of things, you may have heard that the PM's advisor Dominic Cummings has written a blog post indicating that number 10 is looking to fill its ranks with all sorts of what Cummings calls super talented weirdos. And in his blog he wrote, "What SW1 needs is not more drivel about identity and diversity from Oxbridge Humanities graduates, but more genuine cognitive diversity. As well as, I don't want confident public school bluffers. I want people who are much brighter than me, who can work in an extreme environment. If you play office politics, you will be discovered and immediately binned." But public school bluffers? Isn't the Tory party just like the whole of politics awash with them? And if those he hires are much brighter than him, then good luck to him in identifying when they play office politics. And he's also made it clear that the whole human resources system needs to be put on the bonfire. Then Cummings talks about doing things differently, to the extent that it will seem chaotic and not proper number 10 process to some, but the point of this government is to do things differently and better, and this always looks messy. He's also on the lookout for deep experts in TV and digital, as well as those that have worked in movies and advertising. There are some very interesting possibilities in the intersection of technology and storytelling. If you've done something weird, this may be the place for you, he writes. This recruitment campaign has drawn the expected criticism from former civil servants, as well as some ribbing about filling number 10 with misfits and weirdos. But I would say that had either the Labour Party or heaven forfend the Lib Dems won the general election, then number 10 would have been instantly filled with all manner of clueless idiots and no-hopers. So a few geeky mathematical types wandering about in there are probably an improvement on that scenario. And one thing it does show is that even though Cummings says in his blog that he wants these new geeky people to make him redundant, it looks like he will be in number 10 forging policy for some time to come. Overall to me though, it looks like Cummings is trying to turn number 10 into some sort of experimental political research unit to work out how to mathematically game theory domestic and international politics on a grand scale, then somehow harness purposefully induced organisational chaos to forge the policies, both popular and potentially unpopular, that suit the trends and needs, before communicating them out to the electorate and other interested parties via a sort of voter-friendly storytelling method that no one can resist. I wonder what Sir Humphrey Appleby would have made of all of this. But now on to that Labour Party misfit-in-chief, Jeremy Corbyn. And it seems he's on a mission to completely ignore all the lessons from his general election drubbing, by once again doing his best to derail the government's Brexit plans. Yes, when Parliament returns for business next Tuesday to continue debating the EU withdrawal agreement bill, MPs will find themselves faced with an amendment put forward by the Labour Party leader to extend the Brexit implementation period by 2 years. This would delay our leaving the control of Brussels and its courts until the end of 2022. With the aim of avoiding a potential no-deal WTO Brexit at the end of this year, if a deal hasn't been thrashed out. Now, the bill itself, if voted through by Parliament unamended, includes a clause that prevents any extension further than the current deadline of the 31st of December 2020, which is designed to exert maximum pressure on Brussels to agree a deal. But this amendment put forward by Jeremy Corbyn and Keir Starmer seeks to remove that clause and leave it up to Parliament later on down the line as to whether or not to extend. But in doing so, it would also lead to Brussels acting like an anchor to try and force such an extension. You do have to ask yourself what sort of games Jeremy Corbyn is engaged in. His voter base rejected his and his party's Brexit delaying antics. And here he is on political day one of 2020, carrying on from exactly where he left off last year. And not only that, the ardent Remainer Keir Starmer, who himself is angling to replace Jeremy Corbyn, is playing the same tune as his failed soon-to-be former leader. And there are also a whole list of other proposed amendments, with at least one other of them looking to extend the implementation period as well. One amendment comes from the DUP MPs, who are looking to get it stated in law that an objective of the government shall be to remove the Irish border protocol at the earliest opportunity. And they've also put forward amendments designed to prevent direct or indirect commercial discrimination against Northern Ireland products, and to facilitate unfettered access of qualifying Northern Ireland goods to the market within Great Britain. The SNP has put forward amendments to make it the duty of government to hand out papers to all EEA and EU citizens proving their right to stay here after Brexit, so that those people do not have to bother applying for it. Although I will point out that the government will probably not know who is here because of our lax borders to date, so they would inevitably miss some people, possibly quite a lot in fact, so getting those people to apply is probably the best course of action. And Labour has also put forward a whole ream of amendments to ensure that all EU citizens that were present in the UK prior to exit day have a piece of paper giving them a permanent rights of residence as well. And then there's the Jeremy Corbyn amendment calling for an impact assessment of Brexit on the implications of the Ireland-Northern Ireland Protocol, including barriers to trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But that barrier, if it exists at all, would be lifted, deal or no deal, on the 31st of December 2020. And there are more amendments that seem to try and put back into the bill what was removed from the last one, things like parliamentary oversight of the aims of the talks, etc. But I have to say I see little hope for those tabling such amendments getting any of them through. There'll be lots of debate, but at the end of the day, unlike in the last Parliament, the government easily has the numbers to get through what it needs to get through. But there is one amendment I like the look of. That one has been put forward by Mark Francois, Nigel Evans, David Amis, Geoffrey Donaldson, Lawrence Robertson and Andrew Rossindale. That amendment says arrangements must be made for Brexit to be marked at 11 p.m. on the 31st of January by the hourly chimes, including 11 strikes of Big Ben. But what is it about Jeremy Corbyn tabling all these amendments that would either delay Brexit or keep our borders as open as possible? Wasn't he listening to the UK electorate giving its verdict just a few weeks ago? His own voters aren't looking for these types of amendments. If anything, they would rather see the whole process sped up with proper border controls. All he's doing is making himself look completely toothless and irrelevant, as well as being on completely the wrong side of history. Unless, of course, this is some hopeless attempt to try and divert attention away from his disastrous general election campaign. And if it is that, he's the only one being fooled by this damage limitation exercise to try and protect what remains of his tattered political legacy. Almost nobody will be interested in what he's saying now anyway. Jeremy Corbyn has presided over probably the most shameful chapter in the Labour Party's history, as well as one of its worst election results, and therein lies his true historical legacy. History will not be kind to Corbyn and his presiding over a Labour Party riven with anti-Semitism, terrorist sympathies and an almost palpable hate of the country he wants to be the Prime Minister of. And how about his total disconnect from the very working classes he was meant to represent? And right now, today, he continues in exactly the same vein and drags his parliamentary party along with him. I know that the job of the opposition is to oppose the government, but you're not meant to oppose the direct will of the people in the process of opposing the government. That's just stupid and self-defeating. But it does go to show the real lack of calibre amongst some of our politicians. The people have spoken again and again, and all the indicators have been that they want Brexit delivered. So how can opposing or delaying Brexit be a good and viable political choice? Due to Corbyn's proposed amendments, those people that abandoned Labour on the 12th of December will now feel further vindicated in their choice. There will be no voters' remorse for them. But there may be a growing voters' remorse amongst those waverers who still stuck with Corbyn, who now feel they made the wrong choice. And the more he and his successors keep opposing Brexit while backing the nation's enemies, the worse it will get for them. Anyway, what do you think? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.